Hello everyone, welcome back to Secrets Behind the Stars. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video, because today's story is the kind that lingers in the heart long after the screen goes dark. It's about a love that chose silence over spectacle, patience over pressure, and understanding over ego. It's about the emotional thread between Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu, an invisible line that many believed had been cut for good, only for life to quietly, insistently tie it back together in the most unexpected way. For months, fans had accepted the inevitable. No joint interviews, no surprise sightings, no sly nods to a shared past. The silence felt complete, almost protective, like two people who had packed their memories away and closed the door gently behind them. The internet moved on, as it does. People whispered, then stopped. The narrative dissolved. But silence, as it turns out, isn't always a goodbye. Sometimes it is the space where something soft and real gathers strength without needing to be seen. And then, a shift. Not with a grand announcement or a splashy headline, but with tiny, deliberate moments that felt less like a performance and more like breathing. The change didn't arrive through chatter. It arrived through attitude. Elçin did not crash back into Barış's world. She did not post tearful captions or cryptic statements. She chose what so many find impossible in the age of instant public confessions. She chose patience. Grace. Presence without pressure. And in that quiet, she found a path back into the place where feelings are kept, back into Barış's guarded heart. People close to the two didn't hear declarations, they felt energy. They noticed how Elçin carried herself, calmer, surer, at peace with what had been and what could be. When she mentioned their shared past, it wasn't with heaviness or regret. It was with gratitude, as if the story had shaped them, not shattered them. That emotional clarity did something no headline ever could. It got Barış's attention. He no longer looked at her as the woman he once lost. He saw the woman who had learned, softened, and strengthened at once, someone whose quiet maturity spoke louder than any public plea. Instead of pushing for a defined return, Elçin focused on rebuilding the respect that their history deserved. She didn't force doors open, she held them with a steady hand. She acknowledged his new work from a respectful distance, liking an old interview here, sharing a fan-made montage of their iconic scenes there, and at times offering a whisper of admiration for his craft with no expectation attached. Each gesture was a candle lit in the dark, small yet bright. Fans who had followed their journey from the beginning felt the temperature change. Suddenly, timelines were full of questions. Is Elçin reaching out to Barış again? Is the story we loved not over after all? And what struck everyone was how grounded it all felt. There were no tabloid-ready stunts, no glossy setups, no staged encounters meant to grab easy attention. It was human in its simplicity, so human that people began to believe in it again. Because authenticity can't be faked. It quietly steadies the air. Barış, of course, has never been the kind to be dazzled by spectacle. He's always had the reputation of someone who keeps his center, private, sincere, allergic to noise for the sake of noise. He doesn't fall for grand gestures that aren't anchored to truth. Loyalty and honesty move him more than fireworks. It was exactly through those small, consistent acts, those soft acknowledgments of shared history, that Elçin reached him again. Not by demanding space in the spotlight, but by speaking directly to the heart that once understood hers. Those who know them say the bond never actually broke. It just went silent, in the way a song sits between notes, waiting for breath. And sometimes silence is where love gathers courage. Elçin's calm presence reminded Barış of what had always connected them, the long days when the camera lights faded and they still found themselves laughing, the teamwork that needed no negotiation, the trust that flowed not because it was promised, but because it was felt. She didn't need speeches to say what mattered. He remembered in the pauses. Fans began to notice something else. Whenever Barış was asked about her, casually, indirectly, unexpectedly, his tone shifted. There was a warmth in his words, a softness in the expression that flickered across his face like a light turning on in a familiar room. He didn't sound like a man closing a chapter. He sounded like someone keeping a story close, a person who understands that not everything worth having needs to be named out loud. And when two people share a memory that deep, fate has a way of nudging the door open, not to repeat what was, but to allow them to begin again in a new key. Neither Barış nor Elçin has made any public statement about reconciliation. There are no labels, no announcements, no declarations intended to satisfy curiosity. But the language of their actions is fluent. The glances exchanged in a crowded room, the mirrored timing of their social media activity, the way their paths cross without commotion, these things speak in a voice that headlines cannot imitate. It no longer feels like two people trying to outrun yesterday. It feels like two souls learning how to meet again, slowly, respectfully, with an awareness that the quietest moments often carry the most truth. And here is what makes it beautiful: this time it isn't about being seen. It's about being better. Both of them have grown in ways only time can teach. Elçin stands taller in her own light now, confident yet gentle, independent yet open. Barış has become even more reflective, steady, and grounded, a man who measures what matters by how it endures. When affection returns after both hearts have matured, it doesn't repeat old patterns. It becomes wiser, clearer, deeper, less a spark that flares and more a flame that warms. Behind the scenes, those in their circle talk about a reconnection that formed the way dawn invites day, softly, then fully. It began with little things, a friendly message that didn't ask for anything, a story that made them both laugh, a kind word left quietly without an audience. They didn't dissect what went wrong or try to rewrite the past. They didn't argue to prove who held the better version of the truth. They chose presence over posturing, peace over pride. Two people who had learned from their own missteps, arriving again with humility, simply choosing to be kind. And maybe that is why this version of their story feels different. Real love doesn't always arrive with noise. Sometimes it returns carrying forgiveness in one hand and patience in the other, guided by memories that never faded, only softened around the edges. Fans who once argued, divided themselves into theories and timelines, now seem to share a quiet understanding. They don't demand answers. They don't require box definitions. Because deep down, they can feel it, that line between them was never truly cut. Every shared look, every parallel moment, feels like a halted melody finding courage to play again. What began as a romance scripted for the screen has slipped into the realm of something that cannot be written on cue. It has become a testament to emotional growth and unspoken care, a reminder that affection is not always a performance. Barış and Elçin have shown that love doesn't need loud gestures to be real. Sometimes it is nothing more, and nothing less, than showing up from a distance with dignity intact, with respect carefully held, with tenderness that chooses to be quiet because it knows it doesn't need to prove itself. Perhaps they won't label it. Perhaps they don't need to. There is a peace to their understanding now, a mutual acceptance that they occupy a rare space in each other's lives that no one else can duplicate. People who have seen them together whisper about the new stillness between them, no awkwardness, no heavy air, just comfort. Familiarity that doesn't try to recreate old scenes. They aren't chasing yesterday. They're sharing today. And in doing so, they've discovered something sturdier than romance as it's usually portrayed, a lasting bond built not on spectacle, but on respect, memory, and time itself. Experts of the heart will say it plainly: communication and patience are everything. You don't always have to demolish the house to find a home again. Sometimes you just need to walk back into the room you once loved and notice that the light still falls beautifully across the floor. In many ways, that is what their story teaches us. You don't begin from nothing, you begin from what was never truly lost. So is this a second chance at love, or a deep friendship reborn? Maybe it's both. Maybe it's neither and also more. What seems certain is that Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu share a rare connection, one that stretches beyond names, beyond time, beyond the roles that first tied them together. In an age where everything is loud and fleeting, their quiet story is what makes it memorable. It gives people faith not in fairy tales, but in the simple, hard-earned beauty of two people choosing gentleness again. Thank you for staying with us to the very end. If this touched you, please like the video, subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars, and tell us what you feel in the comments. We'll be back soon with more stories that illuminate the lives of your favorites, not with noise, but with heart. Until next time, take care and goodbye.